Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nick Lefebvre.
I'm Juliette Dragus. WZZM 13 News at 5 starts now.
WZZM 13 News, on your side.
Jeffrey Willis gets 3 trials. A Muskegon County judge says there's simply too much risk involved in combining separate murder and kidnapping cases against him. Today, prosecutors asked a judge to combine the cases against Willis, arguing it would save Muskegon County both time and money, and because of overlapping evidence. Defense attorneys, they argued putting all the cases together would simply hurt Willis's chances for a fair trial. Willis, you may remember, is accused in the 2013 disappearance and murder of Jessica Herringa, 2014 shooting death of Rebecca Bletch, and the attempted kidnapping of a teenage girl last year. WZZM 13's John Mills is in Muskegon with more now on both the arguments from today's hearing and the judge's decision.
The judge here in Muskegon County said that if all 3 big cases against Jeffrey Willis were presented to a single jury, it would be too difficult for that jury to keep all the evidence straight. Muskegon County prosecutor DJ Hilson cited overlapping evidence in all 3 cases, like the silver minivan, bullets, and gun.
They are so interconnected and interwoven in the various aspects of the evidence that has been obtained and certainly presented at preliminary examination.
In one way, Muskegon County Circuit Judge Marietti seemed eager to grant his motion to combine all 3 cases. The judge said it would result in judicial efficiencies, but he denied the motion in part because of the extreme burden hearing all 3 cases at one time would cause a single jury. Marietti said the cases were complex. One trial would be asking too much of a jury and open the door to the possibility of error. He said his decision was guided by the principle to be fair to all parties. The attempted abduction case, the Herringa murder, and Rebecca Bletch murder will remain separate trials.
We're going to have a good, clean, crisp trial that has to do with my daughter and the facts in her case, and I'm happy for that.
Nick Winberg is seeking justice for his daughter, Rebecca Bletch. Friday, he held a photo of Jessica Herringa, too.
They can't speak for themselves. Who's going to speak for these people that are innocent like this?
Winberg says he's convinced police saved the lives of other innocent women by arresting Jeffrey Willis.
He's pure evil with a twisted mind.
And he's doing his best to be patient in seeking justice. The Rebecca Bletch murder trial was scheduled to start in June. The judge also today granted a motion by the defense to delay the start of that trial. No new date has been given. In Muskegon County, John Mills, WZZM 13 News.
Let's take a look back at the timeline of all this now. Police began their investigation into Jeffrey Willis 1 year ago. That's when a teenage girl told authorities she jumped from a moving silver minivan north of Muskegon. Investigators eventually linked that abduction attempt to Willis, which led to breaks in 2 other high-profile murder cases, Jessica Herringa and Rebecca Bletch. Prosecutors believe Willis is responsible for both murders. Rebecca Bletch was shot and killed while jogging along Automobile Road in Muskegon County in June 2014. A year earlier, prosecutors say Jeffrey Willis also kidnapped 25-year-old Jessica Herringa. Investigators later found evidence linking Willis to the Bletch case. And in September of last year, after a thorough investigation, Willis was charged with Jessica Herringa's murder. Herringa's body has never been found.
This is a look right now outside from our Grand Haven Tower cam. It's been a cool, mild day across West Michigan, but the weekend is shaping up to be very rainy.
That it is. Chief Meteorologist George Lesson's over in the Weather Center now to start our team coverage of the system that's heading our way, George.
Lots of heavy rain expected here starting Saturday night, and for that reason there is a flood watch that has been issued for all of West Michigan. It starts Saturday afternoon through at least Monday morning. A flood watch means that you need to be on the lookout for heavy rain, especially in those flood-prone areas. You know if you are in one of those because we had heavy rains earlier this month, and the rivers did come up just a little bit. The developing storm we are watching is not the rain down in Indiana and Illinois. It's not the rain in Iowa. Those are all going to stay away from us here tonight. It's the developing storm coming into the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles that's going to be rapidly racing into our direction, and that will be later on tomorrow. You can see the rain starting down in Oklahoma, heading up through Missouri, Illinois, and into western lower Michigan, and this will all be heaviest starting tomorrow night, lasting through Monday evening. It'll be raining 100% of the time, and so there will be no breaks or no significant breaks. This is the global forecast system model for us, a generous 2 to 4 inches of rain that we have been talking about for the last couple of days. I don't think we're going to see much higher amounts than this, but this is enough to cause significant river flooding, which will take place next week, not this weekend. Other than that, here are the differences in the computer models. The European has been the most consistent, anywhere between about 2.5 to 2.9 over the past 2 or 3 days. The North American model is a little robust, but anywhere between 2 and 4 inches of rain is certainly likely across the area. Outside right now, it is just mostly cloudy, and temperature is at 60 here in Grand Rapids, 50s along the lakeshore, with the exception of Ludington. You're at 44 degrees. So your 3-day planner calls for a few light sprinkles here tonight. As we get down to 45, the real rain starts tomorrow afternoon, especially I-96 southward, and then heavy rain everywhere Saturday night, Sunday, tapering off just a little Sunday night, and then a little bit of light rain on Monday as it becomes breezy, but a very chilly weekend. In fact, highs on Sunday most likely will be in the 40s all day before rising into the low 50s late in the day. We'll take a closer look at the hour-by-hour timeline a little bit later on.
Well, with the heavy rains expected this weekend, should you be concerned about flooding? To answer that question, meteorologist Laura Hartman is in downtown Grand Rapids at Anaboan Park.
Earlier this month, a lot of Anaboan Park was underwater as a lot of us dealt with flooding in West Michigan. Here in Grand Rapids at the Grand River, almost flood stage was achieved of 18 feet when the rivers rose very close to that on April 10th into the 11th. Now, rivers have really receded since then, but we do have another threat this weekend of flooding, and this one could return some of those water levels to that stage. Now, a lot of us think back to 2013 when we talk about flooding in the West Michigan area, when we achieved record levels in the Grand River in downtown Grand Rapids. Almost 22 feet is how high that river rose. But the question is that going to be an issue once again this year, and are we going to face that kind of flooding? Take a look at this graph. We've got river levels at the Grand Rapids Grand River area down to about 8.25 feet. Now, they are expected to go down just a little bit until we get that rain coming in the next couple days. Remember, that's going to be Saturday afternoon all the way through Monday, and river levels are expected to climb quickly once again. Now, this graph saying about almost 16 feet achieved. That's not too far from what we achieved earlier this month. But remember, this is likely going to change. We do expect to see a lot of change as new data comes in as we get closer to the event. In conclusion, if you dealt with flooding just a couple weeks ago, you'll likely be dealing with it again. Now, in the event that we get even more rain than what was expected, we might be dealing with something that could be reminiscent of 2013. Make sure you stay tuned to WZZM 13 for all the latest information.
We will, Laura, thank you. And you can always track weather conditions with the WZZM 13 weather app. It is a free download for both Apple and Android devices. You'll find the most up-to-date weather forecast along with an interactive radar. The same features are also available on our website, WZZM13.com.
23 registered sex offenders now face new charges after authorities checked to see if they were actually living where they were registered. They went to 391 addresses in Muskegon County. 94% of the offenders, they were complying with the law, living at their registered addresses. 23 others, however, who did not report their address changes, they are now considered absconders and face potential 4-year felonies if convicted. A teenage couple near Detroit faces charges connected to the murder and dismemberment of another teenager who disappeared more than a year ago. 19-year-old Stephen McAfee was last seen March 2016 when he left his home in Macomb County. Today, prosecutors filed charges of murder and bodily dismemberment against 19-year-old Andrew Fiacco. His girlfriend, 18-year-old Yvette McDonald, also facing charges of dismemberment and lying to police. Authorities say McDonald told a friend about McAfee's murder and how she and Fiacco allegedly cut up the body and buried it on a property in Macomb County. Crews found McAfee's remains yesterday.
As reported, we do not have a motive as to why this transpired. So if there was anything out there that, and the family is concerned that, it's been reported that this may be drug related, we have nothing that would indicate that.
Police say Fiacco confessed to shooting McAfee several times, though investigators are not yet saying what led up to the murder.
President Trump will not have to worry about a government shutdown as he wraps up his first 100 days in office. Congress today passed a short-term spending measure to keep the government running. How short term? Well, 1 week. Meanwhile, the president headed to Atlanta today to speak at the National Rifle Association's annual convention. And as ABC's Kenneth Moten reports, President Trump is saying running the country is not as easy as he thought.
President Trump back in front of the National Rifle Association in Atlanta.
You came through for me, and I am going to come through for you.
In the White House, the president even more confident on the eve of his first 100 days in office.
It's a false standard, 100 days, but I have to tell you, I don't think anybody has done what we've been able to do in 100 days.
The president signing his 30th executive order Friday morning, directing a review of offshore drilling. Ahead of his 100-day milestone, Trump told Reuters he thought being president would be easier as he deals with major domestic and foreign policy issues like North Korea, giving this warning.
Well, there's a chance that we could end up having a major conflict with North Korea. Absolutely.
The new president avoiding a government shutdown for at least one more week. Lawmakers could vote next week on a spending bill that would keep the government open until the end of September. And that new GOP health care bill, right now, Republicans don't have the votes to give the president his first legislative win, as reviews on his first 100 days continue to come in.
I give him an A. So in 100 days, he's reignited our place in the world, leadership.
He has not accomplished much, and then he compares it to like Franklin D. Roosevelt. It's astounding.
Running the country may be hard, but President Trump will be back in familiar territory Saturday. He's holding a rally in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to mark his 100th day in office. Kenneth Moten, ABC News, Washington.
Fairly or unfairly, presidents are judged by their achievements in their first 100 days in office. So how much work has President Trump accomplished compared to his two immediate predecessors? President Trump has signed a number of them since taking office. Today he signed his 30th executive order. President Obama, in his first 100 days, signed 19. President George W. Bush signed 11. President Trump says the second highest number in 100 days after President Harry Truman. Now, if you break down the numbers even more, the majority of those bills, 13, reversed Obama-era regulations. Only 6 had to do with new legislative action, 5 were personnel-related, and the other 4 named new facilities or were commemorations. When it comes to travel, President Trump is right on par with a number of states as President Obama. Trump's trip to Georgia today makes 11 states visited since he took office in January. President Obama had 11 in his first 100 days, but look at President Bush, 26 states.
Federal agents are sharing more evidence against a state lawmaker linked to a corruption case.
A Michigan teenager is killed in an overnight arson fire, and police say his brother is the one who set it.
And later at 6 o'clock, 3 weeks ago, her horses died inside of a burning barn, intentionally chained shut. Tonight, she talks about the investigation and what's next for her nonprofit.
We are going to miss views like this over the weekend. This is video we took today from Air 13 flying over Cedar Springs.
We got some sunny weather today. More clouds are moving in. In particular, tomorrow may start off dry, but going to be a very wet weekend across West Michigan.
George is outside on the weather deck to look ahead to the rain we're going to get over the next several days. One thing you can't help but notice how green it is out there right now, George.
Things have greened up very nicely, but they're going to be underwater here by the end of the weekend. Some areas along the rivers are going to be above bank full and even higher. So if you live in those areas, you'll be highly impacted. Everyone will be impacted by the heavy rain. 13 weather ball is blinking bright. We'll see some rain move in later on tomorrow afternoon. That's in sight. And it's also blue, cooler weather in view, only in the 50s here tomorrow. And this view brought to you by Countryside Greenhouse of Allendale. As you're heading out this evening, mainly cloudy skies. You may catch a sprinkle, but that's just about it. Temperatures will slip down into the mid-40s. And then with the rain arriving by late afternoon tomorrow, especially from Grand Rapids southward, highs will only be in the mid-50s. So a cooler than average day coming up here during the day tomorrow. tomorrow. As far as the weather headlines, we showed you this yesterday. We're going to repeat it again today. The heaviest rain will occur over a 36-hour period from Saturday night through early Monday. 2 to 3 inches is definitely likely, and some areas could see up to 5 inches of rain. National Weather Service advised anyone living along small rivers and streams, you should monitor them closely because those were going to come up very, very quickly. This could be a very heavy, quick rainfall event. That's why a flood watch has been issued. This is an aerial flood watch. It goes into effect at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon until 8 o'clock on Monday for most of West Michigan due to the heavy rains moving on in. We've got a number of river flood alerts as well. This is for the Comstock Park area along the Grand River. This is a river flood watch. As Laura mentioned earlier, the river is expected to come up into the actionable stage here during the day or later on next week, as most of the area rivers will be cresting. And also a river flood watch down here along the Portage River in Vicksburg. Right now, we are looking at, hopefully this will go, there you go, it'll get back up into the actionable stage. This is later on Sunday into Monday, and again, most of the area rivers will be cresting later on next week. Got a couple of sprinkles trying to fall out of some very high level clouds. Again, this is the rain that is not reaching the ground. It is down here in Illinois and Indiana, but that's staying to our south. This area of rain over here in Iowa and Wisconsin is going to stay to our north, so we're just going to see a sprinkles. This is the storm we're watching coming out of the southwest U.S. It's being driven by this very powerful upper level storm. It's going to bring up a lot of moisture off of the Gulf for 2 or 3 days as this storm system gets wrapped up, and then it heads on up into Canada by the middle of next week. And then a reinforcing shot of cold air comes on through. It's going to be cold Thursday morning. There may be some frost around the area Thursday morning, and then just kind of a cold next weekend, but it should be dry. When I say cold, colder than average. Here's one model output for the rainfall. This is the global forecast system. Generous 2 to as much as 3 inches of rain. Some spots getting up to 4 down here in Benton Harbor. I do not think we're going to see much more than that, although it is certainly not out of the realm of possibility. You can see, hopefully, coming up on our next weather graphic there, the differences between the European model, which has about 2.5 to 3 inches worth of rain, to the North American model, which has almost 4.5 inches of rain. So 2 to 4 is a pretty good bet on how much we will get in our area. Again, overnight tonight, some light sprinkles, otherwise cloudy. Coldest up here to the north, 32 in Ludington, to as warm as 44 in South Haven. You've got less cloud cover up north than south. 38 to 41 overnight here tonight. Up north, again, a few light sprinkles. And here in the greater Grand Rapids area, again, a few sprinkles are not out of the question as we fall to between about 42 in Ionia to 48 here in Kalamazoo. A very light wind, but that will start to pick up towards daybreak. And again, the heaviest rain will starting Saturday night, but it will begin Saturday afternoon to the south and continue on through Monday. We'll get briefly milder, and then a very chilly day Tuesday with highs only in the 40s, and still cloudy Wednesday. 13 on target forecast. Some frost possible Thursday morning. And then we get to 59 in the afternoon, upper 50s and low 60s then through next weekend, but at least it will be dry. But again, that will be below our average highs for this time of year. Just monitor the forecast, as the forecast won't change, but the weather certainly will change this weekend.
And if you got a sump pump at home or something, make sure it's plugged in and ready to go.
And backup battery.
Yep. Thank you, George.
Well, you may have unused prescription medications in your home, but those old drugs can pose a danger to children.
ABC's Stephanie Ramos tells us how you can get rid of them tomorrow on National Prescription Drug Buyback Day.
That old prescription medicine. Open your medicine cabinet and you'll probably see several bottles of these pills. Whether we keep these unfinished prescriptions around just in case, or we simply forget to toss them, they can be dangerous if accidentally taken. And in households with small children, these old pills could pose a risk in curious hands. Fortunately, tomorrow is National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, an opportunity for many to take their old pills to a collection site where they can be disposed of safely. To find a collection site near you, the Drug Enforcement Agency has an online tool. Simply plug in your zip code and get a list of participating locations near you. Collecting those pills will only take a few minutes. It's time well spent for a safer medicine cabinet at home. With this Medical Minute, I'm Stephanie Ramos.
And there are a number of communities in West Michigan taking back unused or outdated drugs tomorrow. We've got a link to a full list on our website, WZZM13.com.
Up next, we will look back on a violent point in American history on this, the 25th anniversary of the Los Angeles riots.
And see how people from around the world are helping the Lake Express Ferry kick off the 2017 season.
You're watching WZZM 13 News at 5.
One of the deadliest riots in U.S. history began 25 years ago today in Los Angeles. 5 days of mayhem and violence after the acquittals of a group of police officers for the traffic stop beating of a black man. Award-winning director John Ridley in his documentary Let It Fall takes us all the way through the scenes that played out, the personal stories of those directly involved, and the lessons learned during those very dark days. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez has a look back.
25 years after the looting,
This is utter lawlessness.
the violence,
You see no officers here at all.
those 5 destructive days in Los Angeles that claimed the lives of more than 50 people.
There's a lot of unrest.
Oscar winner John Ridley and ABC's Lincoln Square Productions revisit the LA riots in the documentary Let It Fall.
People in the film talk about it as being a movement, a rebellion, a riot, guerrilla warfare. But ultimately, we're talking about human beings that were involved.
The uprising started in South Central LA, April 29, 1992, just hours after the Rodney King verdict was broadcast on live TV.
Not guilty.
Swift outrage to a jury acquitting the 4 police officers charged with assault and excessive force against King. But Ridley begins the film 10 years earlier, showing the long-festering frustrations between races.
How naive we were to believe the harmony among different races.
And over police tactics.
They were neither serving us or protecting us.
An in-depth look at the simmering tensions.
It's not a black thing!
It's been a black thing for the last 300 years!
That so brutally boiled over. And the lesson Let It Fall's creators hope those images and stories convey.
It happened before, and very unfortunately, if we don't find the capacity to see ourselves and others, it could happen again.
Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, Los Angeles.
The documentary Let It Fall airs tonight, 9 o'clock, right here on WZZM 13. A Michigan woman learns the hard way you can't get onto the field at Ford International Airport without getting in some trouble. And the manhunt near Washington, D.C. for an escaped prisoner with a history of attacking police.
For most, the closest you can get to swimming like a mermaid would be to strap on some scuba gear, but a school in Texas is taking a different approach. In fact, it is turning dreams of being a mermaid into reality. And as Sean Giggy shows us, the school is drawing people from around the country.
Thanks to its loyal customers, for the past 25 years, adventure scuba and snorkeling in Plano has never been in danger of going underwater. But ever since last year, when owner Richard Dean decided to offer an unusual new class that has nothing to do with scuba diving, his store has been flooded with business.
It is rivaling our scuba program with respect to participation. I never saw it coming.
So what's given his store such a boost? You wouldn't believe. Mermaid School is in session once a week here, and Moira Dobbs is the teacher.
Mermaid goes in the occupation box when I fill out any kind of paperwork, so.
Moira the mermaid is actually Moira the marketing manager. She admits the mermaid life seems silly at first, but after just one lesson, her students usually fall head over tail fin.
People just forget what it was like to be 12 years old, and I like to share that magic.
Morgana Alba came all the way from Washington, D.C. just to take part in the class.
When your mother tells you you can grow up to be anything, 7-foot professional mermaid is not out of the realm of possibility.
This may be a chance to live out a childhood dream, but these mermaids say there's a purpose behind it. Moira has a passion for ocean conservation and says if you can get people in the water, you can get them to care about the water. But for most of the students, being a mermaid is more than just child's play. It's therapeutic.
That can be hugely rewarding for anyone that feels lonely, isolated, or is just looking for a new way to spend their time.
Proof that sometimes it's better where life is wetter, under the sea.
That does look like fun. Thanks to Sean Giggy for that report. In our next half hour, we will get a preview of a new star-studded movie that looks at the other side of romance. And meet Mr. Gorilla, how a man in a suit crawled his way through one of the world's top races.
WZZM 13 News, on your side.
Tension between the Trump administration and North Korea continues to build. South Korea's military is reporting the North test-fired a ballistic missile today.
And this morning, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, he took a hard line against the dictatorship during a session before the U.S. Security Council.
But as ABC's Josh Haskell reports, the White House is not ruling out a diplomatic solution.
With an increased U.S. military presence in the region and the Trump administration calling North Korea an urgent national security threat, President Trump's tough talk towards Kim Jong-un went a step further in an interview with Reuters Thursday night.
Well, there's a chance that we could end up having a major conflict with North Korea. Absolutely.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson echoed that sentiment Friday morning when he addressed the UN Security Council.
The United States cannot idly stand by, nor can other members of this council who are within striking distance of North Korean missiles.
The U.S. has moved an aircraft carrier group, a nuclear submarine, and now a missile defense system to South Korea.
So, I informed South Korea that it would be appropriate if they paid. It's $1 billion system. It's phenomenal. It's the most incredible equipment you've ever seen.
The South Koreans say they have no plans to pay for the system. With this show of force, the Trump administration is also ratcheting up its diplomacy. The president praising Chinese President Xi Jinping, hoping his country will do more to pressure North Korea. When asked if President Trump considered North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to be rational, the president saying, "I hope he's rational," noting that Kim Jong-un took over the regime at a young age, saying he's 27 years old. His father dies, took over a regime, so say what you want, but that is not easy, especially at that age. Secretary Tillerson urged the UN Security Council to act before North Korea does, and to impose increased economic and diplomatic sanctions on the regime. Josh Haskell, ABC News, New York.
All right, let's go to weather now. And flooding going to be a concern over the next couple of days with all the rain that's headed our way.
And George is back in the Weather Center now with a closer look at when that rain is going to start, George.
No worries here tonight or during the day tomorrow. The heavier rain will start Saturday night, and for that reason we have a flood watch that has been issued for all of West Michigan, or most of West Michigan, starting at Saturday at 2 p.m. until 8 a.m. on Monday. Southern counties down into northern Indiana and in the Chicago area, there's a flash flood watch, which means the rain comes at a quicker pace than it will here in the greater Grand Rapids area. The developing storm is coming out of the Four Corners area, just about crossing the Rockies, heading into the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma. The rain to our south in Illinois and Indiana, that's not the storm, nor is the stuff over Illinois, or Iowa or Wisconsin. That may give us a couple of sprinkles here tonight, but the big storm will be coming our way later on tomorrow night. You can see the stretch of rain from all the way from Oklahoma across Missouri into Illinois, Indiana, and here into western lower Michigan. Many areas seeing at least 2 to 3 inches worth, and some spots may get up to 4 inches. There is quite a wide variety of model solutions, anywhere between 3 and as much as 5 inches, but I think 2 to 4 is certainly the most likely scenario here in West Michigan. That is definitely going to lead to some flooding. Again, here's the discrepancies between the model, or the differences between the models, anywhere between about 2.5 to 4.5 inches worth of rain. So again, this is going to have a high impact on everyone. Much lower impact unless you live along an area river here over the next several days. 60 right now in Grand Rapids, mid-50s along the lakeshore, even 45 up in Ludington, where you've got a little bit more filtered sunshine. So again, the main worries will come on Saturday night through Sunday night, when the heaviest rain will fall, and weekend temperatures will only be in the 50s. In fact, most of the day Sunday probably in the upper 40s. We'll take another look at how much rain may fall in your community. That's a little bit later on.
All right, George, thank you. A Clinton County woman faces a felony charge after she was found trying to get onto the airfield at Gerald R. Ford International Airport. 31-year-old Alexis Battistone is charged with trespass upon a key facility. It's a trespassing charge, but it's a 4-year felony. Airport police were notified early in the morning, April 9th, about a suspicious person southwest of the main terminal. An airport spokeswoman said Battistone was trying to get access to the airfield. She told police she was a member of the maintenance department but did not have a security badge. Battistone is going to be back in court in mid-May. Court documents are revealing new information on the investigation of a Michigan lawmaker. State Senator Burt Johnson is accused of repaying a loan by putting a school vendor on his payroll. The government claims that vendor did not do any work for Johnson. The FBI says he asked for $10,000 to pay for his son's school tuition. A search warrant affidavit says Johnson didn't make a single payment over a 5-month period, and a check to the school bounced.
Police near Detroit say a man is facing homicide charges for what investigators call a deliberately set house fire that killed his teenage brother. It happened early this morning at a home in Sterling Heights. 5 people escaped from the home. The parents suffered smoke inhalation. Crews pulled 17-year-old Matthew Maroki from the inside the house. Investigators say the fire started in a first-floor den directly below Matthew's room.
He was sleeping, so he was probably overcome by smoke and was not able to get out on his own, so we had to go in and get him. It's just a matter of, like you said, the location of the fire and the location of the victim's room.
Matthew Maroki was pronounced dead at the hospital. Investigators say gasoline was used to start the fire. Police in Maryland are looking for an escaped prisoner who was serving time for trying to kill police officers. 28-year-old David Watson was being taken to the hospital when he managed to escape by running into a wooded area. It's not clear why Watson was going to the hospital. Police are searching the area with patrol officers and K-9 units, as well as a police helicopter. He was sentenced to 106 years in prison for shooting at an officer's home in 2012. Investigators in Florida say 1 of 5 children hit by a drunk driver at a school bus stop has died, and they say the driver is a former Mississippi police officer. The crash happened yesterday afternoon near the village of Poinciana. That's about 30 miles south of Orlando. A group of children was walking home from their school bus stop when they were hit by the car that went off the road. The car also hit another car driven by a pregnant woman before speeding away. An off-duty sheriff's deputy ended up catching the driver. He is identified as 48-year-old John Campbell. Detectives say he worked for 10 different police agencies in Mississippi before moving to Florida.
The sheriff told us he was a very competent law enforcement officer when he was sober. He said we tried and tried and tried to help him, but he was more interested in himself and his drinking and his alcohol than he was in his job, his employers, these children. You're looking at the guy that needs to be in prison for the rest of his life, because if he's not in prison, the community around him is not safe.
One of the injured children remains in intensive care in critical condition.
Still to come, there is a new movie in theaters called How to Be a Latin Lover.
We will preview the new comedy starring Rob Lowe and Salma Hayek.
Plus, after just 5 years, a Grand Rapids charter school is closing its doors. Coming up at 6, we explain why the Ellington Academy is shutting down. A new movie out this weekend looks at love, romance, and failure. Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight has a preview.
This week, Rob Lowe, Salma Hayek, and an all-star cast learn about life, love, and some interesting costumes and how to be a Latin lover.
Guys like you and me, we do whatever it takes to come out on top.
In How to Be a Latin Lover, Rob plays a washed-up gigolo trying to woo a wealthy older woman played by Raquel Welch.
I think everybody should be using whatever they got at every moment until they don't got it no more.
There may or may not be a sequence in this movie where I'm in butt-tight black underwear.
It's survival of the fittest. No hard feelings.
But he's got some competition from Mexican comedian Eugenio Derbez, who plays Rob's rival and friend, and was beyond excited to work with the screen legend.
I wanted my dad to be alive again and come back to Earth because my dad was a bigger fan probably than me. And he was like, Dad, I'm kissing Raquel Welch.
And while the men get a lot of attention, co-star Salma Hayek says, don't underestimate the ladies.
The leading ladies are fantastic, extraordinary, and they get to be sexy and sassy and bold and funny and crazy.
Like Kristen Bell, who joins the cast as a crazy singing cat lady.
Welcome to my home. It's a really fun character because she has a lot of cats. She's compassionate towards anything sad or lonely or in distress.
Stay here as long as you like. I'm sure you'll find a way to pay me back.
Eye contact, eye contact.
guy, right?
For Entertainment Tonight, I'm Kevin Frazier. Now, back to you in the studio.
And you can catch Entertainment Tonight every weeknight, 7 o'clock, followed by The Insider at 7:30, right here on WZZM 13.
Heavy rain is on the way starting Saturday afternoon, lasting through early Monday. But right now, here's a look at the current totals running a surplus for April, the season of spring, and the year so far. We've seen our dry weather here today. We will not see dry weather until perhaps Wednesday of next week now. 13 weather ball is blinking bright. We have a lot of rain in sight. That'll start tomorrow night, kind of work its way in tomorrow afternoon. It's also blue, cooler weather in view for the weekend, and this view brought to you by Countryside Greenhouse of Allendale. Chances of rain in the morning pretty low. It starts increasing about 3 o'clock here in Grand Rapids and especially southward. Become widespread showers by the late afternoon and evening hours. Some of these are going to be having heavy rains, and for that reason, flood watch has been issued for most of west Michigan. It goes into effect tomorrow afternoon through very early on Monday. There's a flash flood watch down over the southwest corner of the state through Chicago. Flash flood watch means that it's going to come down at a faster rate and probably cause more problems quicker than it will here in West Michigan. We'll see a lot of river flooding, especially early next week. Got sprinkles to our south. We've got sprinkles to our north. Both of those are going to stay off to our south and north. We may catch a sprinkle here overnight tonight, but the main event will be coming later on this weekend as a developing storm moves out of the southwest U.S. into the mainland, into the central part of the state, central part of the country, and then a lot of water coming up off the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to bring the rain to us very quickly starting tomorrow afternoon, as we showed you. It's being driven by a very strong upper level system. Just look at this. It's just kind of spinning on through here. This is Monday, still off to our west, and the bulk of the rain will not quit until Monday afternoon into Tuesday. And then we're going to have another cool down coming our way, but at least we'll be dry for the second half of the week through next weekend. Very little, if any, precipitation will be falling, but we're going to stay much cooler than average. In fact, there's a chance of some frost around the area on Thursday morning. Let's take a look at the hour by hour from our GFS model. This is overnight tonight and during the day tomorrow through early Sunday. We're looking at anywhere between 1 and 1.5 inches of rain. That's through Sunday morning. As we get through Sunday, the daytime hours, another 1 to as much as 1.5 inches of rain. By this time Sunday evening, about 2 to 3 inches worth of rain, and it will continue Sunday night into Monday morning. Anywhere between about 2 and 4 inches of rain is certainly not out of the question. 2 to 3 is likely, and some areas could see up to 5 inches worth of rain. This would have a very huge impact, especially on the small streams and rivers. Be very, very careful if you live along one of those. And here's the model range between the European model at 2.5 to as much as 4.5 from our North American model. So again, anywhere between those two amounts or even more is certainly possible here in West Michigan. Tonight though, no worries, couple of sprinkles. They'd be light, 32 up north as you've got a little bit more clearing here to as warm as 44 down south. Up north you could expect a couple of light sprinkles as well. 36 in Baldwin, the cool spot, to 41 in Baldwin, 40 there in Greenville with a light north wind. And from Grand Rapids southward, we're going to see temperatures only falling down into the low and mid 40s. In fact, it may not get below 48 here in Kalamazoo. And again, wouldn't be surprised if there's a sprinkle or two. Heavier rain then moves in on Saturday night after it starts Saturday afternoon from I-96 south. We may be in the 40s most of the day Sunday before rising to the low 50s late in the day, and then low 60s briefly on Monday, and then cooling off into the 40s on Tuesday. 13 on target forecast. It'll be raining pretty much 100% of the time in 100% of the area. And then cloudy skies on Wednesday, and then we finally hit some dry weather. We'll start out cool, maybe frosty on Thursday morning, as I mentioned, but up into the upper 50s and low 60s next week. That's still well below our average highs for this time of year. So again, the main weather word is rain.
All right, thank you, George. West Michigan's water travel connection linking Muskegon to Milwaukee is back in operation. The Lake Express began its 14th season today. The high-speed ferry left Muskegon around 10:15 this morning. A good number of passengers got on board, including a Grand Rapids family moving to Wisconsin and 40 students from the Netherlands who just finished touring dairy farms in Michigan.
Yeah, the original plan was that we took the boat 2 days ago, but yeah, well, this is the first day that the boat is going, so yeah, we had to make some changes in the planning. So yeah, we visited some extra farms over here, So and then we take the first boat to Wisconsin and then going on with our tour.
Oh, how nice. It takes the ferry 2.5 hours to cross Lake Michigan. The London Marathon draws some of the world's top runners to the streets of the British capital, as well as some primates. We'll tell you why a guy crawled to the finish line in a gorilla suit. It's been 5 days since the start of the London Marathon, and one of the participants is just now getting to the finish line.
And it took so long because he wasn't running. He was crawling in a gorilla suit. Tom Harrison, whom the British media have dubbed Mr. Gorilla, finally completed the 26-mile race today. He's wearing the costume to raise money and awareness for an organization that protects endangered gorillas in Africa.
Apparently that suit helped. So far, Mr. Gorilla has received nearly $30,000 in pledges. Give him a lot of credit.
Hey, he's accomplishing something.
An incident that strained race relations in Grand Rapids is now getting national attention.
And now one group from out of town is headed here to protest. We got more on that and the police chief's reaction coming up next at 6.
Guys, get on the ground.